she must have sinned mightily, only she couldn't figure out what she'd done that was so terribly bad. And so began my own pastoral education in life. Barbara Brown Taylor wrote once of a time many years ago when she was a hospital chaplain. She was called to sit beside a mother of a 5-year-old who was in surgery. The little girl had been playing with a friend when her head began to hurt. And by the time she got to her mother, she could no longer see. A CAT scan showed a large tumor pressing on her optic nerve. Barbara Brown Taylor found this mother sitting by a large ashtray full of cigarette butts. This is the old days. She said that the woman smelled like she'd smoked every one of them. "It's my punishment," she said, "for smoking these damn cigarettes. God couldn't get my attention any other way, so he made my baby sick. Now I'm supposed to stop, but I can't stop." And then she began to weep and said, "I'm going to kill my own child." Barbara Brown Taylor said that she spoke up then and said, "I don't believe in a God like that. The God I know wouldn't do something like that," she said. The only problem, she added, with my response was that it was messing with that mother's worldview at the very moment that she needed that the most. However miserable it made her, she preferred a punishing God to an absent or capricious one. This woman wasn't interested in reconciling a loving God with her daughter's brain tumor. There was something wrong with her daughter. There had to be a reason, one that she had some modicum of control over. As with my own hospitalized friend, there had to be a reason for it, and this chain-smoking young mother was even willing to be the reason herself if that was the only way she could get a handle on the tragedy. Pretty irrational, and yet all of us, I think, at some point do similar kinds of things, especially under excruciating stress. Calamity strikes, and we all scrutinize our behavior, our relationships, our habits, our beliefs. What this tells us, of course, is that we are less interested in truth than we are in consequences. In fact, if life were a game show, that would be a good name for it. What we crave above everything in life is control, right? Over the apparent chaos of our own lives and our own world. Well, Jesus was a great student of human nature. One day he comes upon a man born blind. This is in the Gospel of John. Jesus heals the man, and then as he and his disciples are walking away, the disciples ask a penetrating question that says a lot about the reigning philosophy of the ancient world in that day. "Rabbi," they said, "who sinned, this man or his parents, that he should suffer this calamity?" And Jesus says, "Neither. Come, think this through with me." Then he takes them to the outskirts of a village where they can get a very good look at the surrounding fields of the farmers there. And he says, "Look with your own eyes. The rain falls on the fields of the just farmer and the unjust farmer alike." Jesus is simply saying, wake up. Nature itself will tell you that God doesn't go around zapping people for their behavior. In this morning's text, he takes this issue from the realm of physical infirmity to political turmoil, and then to natural disaster. He's full of examples. Pontius Pilate, the ancient version of Vladimir Putin, who was known for his brutal reprisals, had killed a bunch of Galileans, maybe by the sword, maybe by crucifying them, as an example to other Galileans for perhaps killing a Roman soldier. We don't know. The second matter comes right out of the newspaper. The Capernaum Sun-Times has run a piece about a tower that fell over in a little town called Siloam as a result of an earthquake. It happens during a workday, and nearly a score are killed. Do you remember that tower at Siloam, he said, that fell over and 18 people were killed? Do you think they were any worse sinners than anyone else living in Jerusalem? Think again, he says. So here we have the gamut of tragedies that can befall humankind. A man born blind, Galileans killed by an oppressive government that won't brook disobedience, and 18 Jerusalemites who die as a result of a natural disaster. And for Jesus, it's all the same. Don't chalk any of this up to God's will, he says. If you do, you're only kidding yourself. And so he lumps all illness and violence and suffering together. Pain is pain. It's all part of life, he says. Some babies are born whole. A few are born with disabilities. When Pilate's soldiers swing their swords, the person closest to those soldiers dies. When the earth heaves and a tower falls, anyone underneath, good or bad or in between, will perish. That's life. When a tower starts to fall, for whatever reason, be it an earthquake or faulty construction, God does not defy the law of gravity that keeps us all glued to the planet just to save 18 innocent folk selling their wares beneath its shade. So Jesus is out to expose any illusion we might have about keeping ourselves free of the contingencies of our lives. You know, it's great to begin every morning with prayer, but don't think that prayer alone is going to insulate you from all that humans fall heir to in a lifetime. It's all just part of the curriculum of a life. You know how hard it is to get Lyme disease in Oregon? Nearly impossible. You have much better odds of being struck by lightning or winning the lottery. But that's what I got 24 years ago, and I can't imagine a better teacher of the lessons I guess I learned between the ages of 49 and 54. I'm not saying I got infected in order to learn something, however, but challenges like that, if you meet them head on, can make you a better person sometimes. Crazy things happen, and they happen to innocent people somewhere every day. But Jesus says, don't let that drive you to invent ways to control your fear. That torn place your fear has opened up inside you, that's a holy place. Stay there a while. Don't run away. Pay attention to what you're feeling. Let it communicate to you as nothing else can what you may need to be taught the most, because that kind of knowledge is exquisite. It is priceless. And here's a side note. The Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron says, you know, nothing ever goes away until it has taught us what we need to know. Nothing ever goes away until it has taught us what we need to know. It may be painful for you to focus on that, but it is not the kind of pain that leads to death. It is, in fact, the kind that leads to light and life. The writer Reynolds Price tells a story about a man he knew who had suffered through an automobile accident. The man was a distinguished psychiatrist. He's left a paraplegic, utterly dependent upon his family at first. He was depressed. He became suicidal. He told a group about his first days when he returned home and could find no reason to go on living. In great desperation, one day he wheeled himself into a bedroom and locked the door. He held a revolver in his hand and was ready to take his life. And then for the first time in years, he prayed. He said, God, I cannot go on like this. Okay, God, I'll make a deal with you, though. I'm willing to go on living for the sake of my family if you will only do two things for me. Give me some relief from this pain, and then help me better control my bladder. The psychiatrist said that in a few moments after praying that prayer, it was as if he heard a thunderous reply. And the reply was this: no deal. You either take life as it is or die. So if life were a game show, it would not be called Let's Make a Deal. It scared me half to death, he said. It wasn't what I expected to hear from God at all. I put the revolver away and never thought to resort to it again. Reynolds Price said that man went on to live life as it was given him, living many prosperous years, living to tell of his encounter with a demanding, living God whose ways are not always our ways and whose thoughts are higher than our own thoughts. And yet the parable Jesus offers here tells us of a God's patience with us too. At the end of the parable, he says, a man complains that a fig tree ought to be cut down because it has borne no fruit for 3 years. And when the owner demurs and says, give me 1 more year and I'll put manure on it and let's see, the parable pretty much ends right there. We all have our own fig trees that don't bear fruit, these little coping mechanisms we have of our own. They don't bear fruit for us, but we don't want to have them go away either. We say, give me another year. Let me hold on to my guilt because it's the only handle I have to try to control what is uncontrollable. And God says, okay, I won't take it away from you. You keep it until you're ready to give it up yourself. So 2 questions hang in the air. Can you love a life that comes with no guarantees? Yeah, and can you love the Creator who put you here without linking your life entirely to the kind of cards you've been dealt? As I understand it, the biblical witness tells us that if you can, that there are real blessings there available. Joseph Campbell is best remembered for telling us to follow our bliss, remember? But following your bliss isn't not always peaches and cream. Sometimes it involves dwelling in the shadows for a while. In fact, he says, it's by going down into the abyss, those low places, that we recover the treasures of life. Where you stumble, there lies your treasure. The very cave you are afraid to enter will turn out to be the source of what you are really looking for. Now, I believe that with all my heart. And that's good news if you are ready to take it to heart. And there is one other piece of good news that's just as important. You don't have to go through the shadows alone. Scriptures tell us that God is there. And I don't say this glibly. God is there one way or another. As Reynolds Price's psychiatrist friend knew, you can pray. You never know how God will answer, but it's always good to pray, especially when you feel the most alone. And we all know you never feel so alone as when you are facing something unfaceable. Prayer can be the best psychic place for life to be sorted out. The wise Catholic Father Richard Rohr asks, are your control needs, are your fears, your guilt, your worries in charge of your life? If you're obsessed with a thought all afternoon, why not give that thought to God? Lord, why am I so caught up in this fantasy, this preoccupation, this obsession? Why am I so worried about this bill or this mortgage or whatever it might be? Make that the subject of your prayer instead of trying to avoid it. That's the meaning of incarnational prayer, he says. Prayer is seeing what is in front of us in all its fullness. It's responding to life in a holistic way, in the ways it comes to us. So instead of our life being a self-centered monologue, our life can become a God-connected dialogue. Barbara Brown Taylor, who put me onto this in the first place, has said, Nothing we do is going to guarantee us an entirely safe existence. Nothing we do or believe is going to make God tame. We can only choose to face the light, not the darkness, so that if we get hit and fall, we will fall the right way. There's the good news. Amen.